So, do you want to start?
Yeah, shall we kick it off?
Yes.
Beautiful. Well, thank you, all of you who are here today. Really appreciate you being here to talk with us, allow us to share some of our background, our experiences, to talk about the arts and how it can shape community. My name is Grayson Wambach. I'm really excited to be here and to kind of share with you all a bit about my background, my professional background, to share how I even got involved with these two individuals on both sides of me, Edward Duca and Angela Gallia. I had to hear you say it. About 4 years ago now, and how that process has kind of transpired, the ups and downs, the highs and lows of this beautiful project that we've put together that will have its culminating performance this weekend during Science in the City Festival, Vucijiet Beltin. And also to talk with you about how arts shapes community and how it can be a catalyst for change. Catalyst for change is probably a phrase that you may have heard before, maybe you've even used it. If not, the simplest definition I can give is it creates change, it causes change. This idea of being a catalyst for change has been a constant thread for me throughout my professional career. And as I speak more about my background and my work throughout the US as well as globally, I specifically use the arts as kind of my catalyst for change. It's my catalyst to help build and create positive change in communities and with communities. In my experience, art can influence society. It can shift opinions. It creates value within communities. It's a element that can translate experiences across space and time. But it also helps kind of make sense of things. It helps ground things. With so much stuff going on in our world, everything from wars to environmental shifts, changes, to economic issues, and all things in between. The arts is a nice meeting point where people can discuss and share the issues, the hopes, the dreams of how they want to see the world and the change they want to create in it. And so it's always been this through line for me, right, of being able to communicate. It's a universal way to communicate with cultures. And when I speak about the arts, yes, I am referencing things like music, performance, traditional visual art, painting, drawing, things of that nature. But I also want today, when we're talking, I want everyone to think about the arts as something a bit broader, because it's the way that we think, it's the way that we form, creatively, using our imaginations, how we engage with one another, how we connect, how we build relationships. It's, what we do with our hands, you know what I mean? When we are building things, talk about people, woodworkers, people, metal workers, people creating things from their imagination. So I want to share that because arts doesn't have to be put in a box. It can really mean a vast amount of things that I think puts into context how we connect with one another. See if this works. Perfect. And with that being said, I want to share a bit about me. So in my professional background. So I am a producer and consultant. I've worked across the arts and culture space for over a decade now, creating engaging experiences with brands, with festivals, with artists, with cultural institutions. A lot of my work focuses on engaging communities, engaging audiences via specific initiatives, specific themes, but always about connecting people and bringing people together. I also co-run a creative agency called Feature Studios. It's a full-service creative production studio that works across the live experience or live event space, the digital content space, so film, video, design. So that's a bit about kind of my background. Some of the highlighted work that I've done in my time is work with the Chicago Humanities Festival, the Sundance Film Festival, Google, University of Chicago, South by Southwest Festival, the Venice Biennale, and the European Cultural Center. The latter is actually an organization that helps present the Venice Biennale. So the Venice Biennale, of course, has their foundation and presents their exhibition in an open space called Arsenal, as well as open gardens. And they do this annually, whether it's the contemporary art exhibition or the architecture and design. The European Cultural Center helps kind of produce and program exhibitions outside of that space. So kind of activating the city of Venice. So there's a lot going on during the 6 months of each Biennale, and it's actually an organization that I have strong ties to and have been working closely with over the last few years to not only execute programming in Venice, but also to bring some of that work to the US and in various ways. It's a little highlight of some of the work I've done. One thing I like to touch on whenever I'm talking with people is what a producer actually is. The individuals in this room may know this because there are theater producers, there are music producers. I am neither one of those. To put it simply, I am a connector. You probably saw on my last slide, connector is one of the things I like to call myself. I'm a connector. I build relationships. That is what I pride myself on. That's what I do within my work. A lot of my work, especially in the creative space, has me connecting with designers, with architects, with fabricators or builders, with people in the tech space, with people, people who are videographers, photographers, kind of across the board, urban planners, community developers, to engage in projects and to make sure that they're moving seamlessly throughout that process to create something beautiful, to create something special. So if you think about it, think about a web, a spider web, and you have all these points of all these different areas of focus. I'm somewhere in the middle, helping kind of connect the dots with everything. I'm usually the one that, manages budgets. I create budgets, I manage timelines. I just make sure every aspect of a project is moving seamlessly and everyone's communicating with each other. But above all else, I'm a relationship builder. And I like to create community, whether that be internally with my teams or externally with my partners. Now on to kind of the lineup that we're gonna talk about today. I know you heard me mention our collaborative project with these two individuals, Vucijiet, Beltin, which we will talk about a bit more later on in this discussion. And Joe will speak on kind of that process, the labor of love it's been over the last 4 years. But before that, I'm gonna highlight a specific project that I think will frame up what we have done here in Malta. It actually kind of structures and kind of sets the stage for, I think, how we created this community engagement opportunity, and that is my work with the Chicago Humanities Festival. So the Chicago Humanities Festival, and just to give you a brief background, is the longest running festival of arts and ideas in the United States. It connects people to the ideas that shape and define us. It promotes the lifelong exploration of what it means to be human. It has about 35 years of programming under its belt. It started off as a one-day celebration of the humanities, and it's slowly transformed into this year-round festival of arts and ideas. It presents over 160 events in over 40 venues throughout Chicago annually. We produce inspiring programs that feature Nobel laureates, Pulitzer Prize winners, MacArthur Fellows, Oscar, Grammy, and Tony Award winners, to name a few. And some of the notable programs I've had the fortune to produce, and there have been many, but the ones that I like to highlight that I've been involved with are with artists Ai Weiwei, Lin-Manuel Miranda, Gloria Steinem, Tom Hanks, and Bill Gates, just to name a few. One thing I should mention too is the topics that they kind of cover range from art, architecture, design, literature, education, economics, global affairs, politics, media, science, and technology. So it spans the gamut, and it really does look at the issues of our time and kind of reflect what it means to be human. I was brought onto the Humanities Festival in early 2016 to produce the festival and work with their programming team to kind of bring their vision to life. And I did that via talks, panels, presentations, activations. And this was great because we presented really high quality programs that focused on challenging conversations, debates, and ideas that reflected our time, with a lot of key stakeholders and diverse voices contributing to the quality and range of cultural and civic discourse. But after so one thing I should take a step back and mention is a year-round organization, and they have two festivals. They have a fall festival and a spring festival. The fall festival is kind of the flagship. It's a 3-week-long festival. And then in between all of those, in between the fall and the spring, there is one-off programming that happens. So after the initial fall festival, I started to notice some things, and specifically as it pertained to the audience, and so who we were presenting and programming for. One thing I like to mention is, and to talk about, is the humanities, at least in my experience, is seen as a very specific type of audience. The demographic is usually white. They come from a pretty high class status. They're fairly wealthy, and they're highly educated. So we're talking, most people that are beyond just a regular bachelor's degree. They have doctorates, PhDs, masters. And so that reflects kind of the audience that we served, that was there, the donors, the members, the ones who would come year in and year out to our programs. And in some instances you could say, okay, well, these are just people who really enjoy the humanities, who want to be involved, who want to kind of give back. But where it got a little tricky was we were really diving into topics and issues that I think on a global scale everyone goes through, on a scale based within the US are highly relevant, and when it comes to Chicago are extremely relevant. And those are conversations around segregation, affordable housing, crime rates, and poverty. And as I would look around and we would have these really deep conversations, I would see, these faces in the audience, and those faces did not reflect the communities where these issues were actually taking place and where they were actually happening. And so for me, it brought me pause. And the reason being is, how can you really create change? How can you initiate that change if you aren't engaging the individuals that are going through these issues firsthand and getting their perspective and talking with them about these issues and sharing in kind of their thoughts, right? And their needs. And this was the same for my colleagues. So after that festival, we actually came together and we talked about how we can create a more diverse community, how we can engage more of the Chicago community overall, these neighborhoods, and try to get more voices in the room that can kind of reflect some of these issues. And what came of that were the neighborhood hubs. And so these neighborhood hubs, which were launched between 2016 and 2019, celebrated the culture and history of places like Bronzeville, Pilsen, and South Shore. These are neighborhoods on the south and west sides of Chicago. The reason why we wanted to celebrate these areas is because these areas are highly underserved communities in Chicago. Bronzeville and South Shore are historically Black African-American communities. Pilsen's a historically Hispanic community. They make up, in these communities, about 90% of that community. Again, they're extremely underserved, so they lack a lot of resources, a lot of infrastructure. So we wanted to bring the Humanities Festival there with these rich programs, bring people out to kind of experience these neighborhoods, the beauty of these neighborhoods. They're really culturally rich, have been around for many, many years, and kind of have these neighborhoods be the backdrop for this audience to engage and experience and kind of immerse themselves with. And so we would program anywhere from an evening to a 2-day program over the weekend in these neighborhoods. And when we kicked off this program, we actually started in Bronzeville, and we initiated our plan around presenting specific programs that kind of targeted and highlighted issues that we thought related to these communities. And we connected with partners, mainly venue partners, to be able to hold our programs. So we're talking about Performing Arts Center on the south side, galleries, and in a restaurant. And they were all in this small pocket. And so we initiated this neighborhood hub, brought everyone out. It was a great weekend. We sold tickets to this event, and I'll get to this point here in a moment, but we sold tickets to this event. So it was sold out, very active. And by the end of that weekend, I had thought, as well as my colleagues, hey, we did something really great here. We provided some really great programming, some really great conversations for a community that needed it. We highlighted this community, all of those things. We took data, we captured data during this time, and the data that we received was far but positive. And essentially what we got back, and one thing to note here is, of our audience for this weekend, only 10% came from the community or the target zip code of where we were programming, 10%. Part of that is likely because we sold tickets. Now, even selling tickets at a reduced cost in a low-income area, just couldn't afford it or weren't interested at all. So we didn't engage on that level. What we also found out was that we took some surveys, and we found out that the majority of that community felt that the Humanities Festival kind of bombarded their community, kind of came in, laid stake, and just branded the Humanities Festival everywhere and presented programming that really didn't reflect the community's needs or their wants at all, and that it was more for show. That they were coming around and saying, hey, we were involved in the conversation, hey, we're trying to diversify. And then lastly, there was no real engagement with community members, with community organizers, with different organizations to really talk about what is it that this community wants to see? What are the main issues? And so basically they said we dropped the ball. And that was hard for me because this was a big project for me. This was something that I initiated and something that I held a lot of value in. And unfortunately we had to go back to the drawing board, and we did that. And we tried to work out how we would reprogram things, how we would initiate engagement within these communities across these other neighborhoods. And to be honest with you, it took some time, and we went through a lot of the same hiccups and a lot of the same issues. I'm going to actually fast forward a bit because I ended up leaving the Chicago Humanities Festival for a time, and I actually went to the University of Chicago where I led the arts engagement program for the university. But during that time, I still consulted with the Humanities Festival. I consulted on programming, I consulted on different activations, and I worked very closely on these neighborhood programs to continue to work and connect with these communities to figure out what is the through line that we can really have deeper conversations and hold deeper dialogue to kind of transform and share and kind of these issues and find potential solutions. And this brings us to 2020. We actually, I worked with the Humanities Festival to write a proposal, which was actually accepted by the Mellon Foundation, and the proposal provided funding, which translated into a series of events that we would host in 2021, but it provided funding for a pilot neighborhood initiative focused on building building community engagement in established collaborative partnerships in specific areas of Chicago's South Side. The reason why we picked the South Side of Chicago is, again, going back to the culture and the richness of the neighborhoods, the support of the arts and different programming there. We know we could engage on that level because these areas are highly underserved, not only from a income standpoint, but from an infrastructure standpoint and from a resource standpoint, and just lack a series of opportunities. So it was a great way for us to initiate support to supply some of these opportunities within these neighborhoods. And this neighborhood initiative aimed to shift the focus from city level to neighborhood level programming. So where the programming reflects the priorities and the desires of these communities, and the partner orgs would help us initiate that. And not only did we expand where we were programming, but we expanded who we were programming with. So the initiative was a series of programs that was co-created with over 20 neighborhood partners on the South Side. So community members, community organizations that actively live and work in these communities and know what it is they go through day in and day out. So it can really look at those needs, can really look at those dreams, can really look at those key issues and provide a voice. Okay, that's the key thing here, is provide a voice for these communities. And we actually acted in this instance as partners, as supporting partners. So instead of coming in and saying, hey, the Chicago Humanities Festival is going to do this, we're going to program this, we allowed the community to let us know what they want to see, how they want to communicate, and just support from an aspect of bringing these conversations, these programs to life. And so with input from these community members and these organizations, we translated that into 3 separate events that we hosted the summer of 2021. And those events were Community Gardens as Neighborhood Resources, Filmmaking on the South Side, and Musical Legacies of the South Side. So Community Gardens as Neighborhood Resources. The reason why this came up is because there was an initiative in the city of Chicago to take some of the unused, derelict, and vacant spaces on the South Side of Chicago, which there are many, and give back to the community to transform, to let them kind of provide their own input on what they want to see in these spaces. And instead of new buildings or looking at different avenues in that way, a majority of them wanted to create community gardens. As of today, there are about 40 community gardens on the south side of Chicago that are run by individuals in the community or not-for-profit organizations. And so we pulled together a program with some of the key organizations, some of the key community members to talk about these community gardens, what they offer, and they offer everything from volunteer opportunities to come in and have a garden plot, opportunities to educate around health and wellness, nutrition, because mind you, a lot of the youth and a lot of the community members on the south side of Chicago have never tasted fruits or vegetables before in their life. They come from such low income, such poverty-stricken spaces that the food that they are given, and mind you, maybe some of them have had an orange, maybe some of them have an apple, but real true education on this is a fruit, this is a vegetable, this is what this does for you. They do not have that because the food that is offered to them is usually processed. It's processed food, it's an easy way, it's a quick solve for the government to be able, and this is called welfare or food stamps. This is a quick solve for them to gain access for food that they can afford. And so we provided a space to have discussions on that. Organizations came out and they tabled and they actually provided opportunities for the youth. So some of the youth at some of the community centers and schools came out and we connected them with organizations to do volunteer opportunities to provide them education, again, on nutrition, health, and wellness. And one thing to note that during the pandemic, the state piloted a community garden program to supplement residents of nearly 200 affordable housing units in the south side of Chicago. That's how many that are on the south side of Chicago, with fresh fruits and vegetables for free, because when the pandemic hit, the ones who did have any type of job did not have a job anymore, and the access to the food that they were regularly getting stalled because of just not having the shipments and things moving. So these community gardens offered fresh fruits and vegetables to these community members. For this event, we had 60% of the audience from the target community come out. That's over half come out to this event. There was 500 people at this event. It was a smaller event, but that's 300, if I'm doing quick math, about 350 people from that community came out to this event specifically. Secondly, filmmaking on the south side. This was created actually from feedback from the youth in this community. We actually targeted the Inglewood community. One thing to note about the Inglewood community is it is one of the most violent and highest crime rated areas in the United States. It is actively year in and year out on the top 10 list, and is an area where kids specifically do not leave their block radius of their neighborhood because of fear of gang retaliation, gang activity. Most of the kids in this neighborhood, either when they grow up, either are a part of a gang or go the other direction, and the other direction is very few and far between. Most of these individuals have never stepped foot in downtown Chicago, which is roughly 6 or 7 miles away from this neighborhood. Because they don't know anything outside of their block. And because we're in the age of social media and the easy access to filming and to photos, and our iPhones are getting better and better in their cinema quality, as they say, a lot of these youths wanted to learn more about filmmaking and wanted to understand how they can gain access to those type of opportunities. And so we hosted a program where a series of organizations came out who are actually actively working in this community to provide free programming for these youths, where they could come and learn about filmmaking, learn about how to use a camera. We actually had a historic Black college, Kennedy King College, which holds a state-of-the-art studio space that is on the south side of Chicago, partner with us to provide opportunities for youth to come and learn about how film production is run, to learn about, again, how to use a camera, to see how everything comes in the making of a film. And we had about 42% of the community target audience come out for this event, which to me in this area was seen as a success. And lastly, musical legacies of the South Side. Chicago is very well known for blues and jazz. The blues essentially started in either Chicago or St. Louis, somewhere in between, but that is the Midwest. The Midwest is an area of the United States where Chicago it calls home. And then jazz, which jazz was born in New Orleans, but a lot of people say it grew up in Chicago. There is an extremely robust scene of jazz in Chicago. There are jazz festivals, there are jazz organizations. Some of the top tier jazz performers call Chicago home. And there is a festival called the Inglewood Jazz Festival, which is close to, I think, creeping up to 30 years of running, that operates in the Inglewood community, so that same community I referenced earlier, and provides free jazz programming and free jazz performances during this festival. And we helped that festival kind of open up the first day and put together a program from the community that basically highlighted jazz as a art form. We did it at a community center in the heart of Inglewood. There was performances, there were community organizers, community members that came out and spoke about what's happening in the community, also provided opportunity for some organizations to provide free programs for the youth and adults to learn more about the history of jazz, as well as potentially learn an instrument if they wanted. So providing these opportunities where they can actually connect on a level, or at least get that initial connection, so that they can feel like they have that opportunity and understand kind of where that could go. This event was extremely successful. We had about 65% of the audience that came out. And this one, actually, we had close to 1,000 people in attendance for this event. I reference the neighborhood initiative because after going through this project, I project managed this entire initiative with the Humanities Festival team. And after going through this project and capturing the data that we captured and talking to the community members, it was such a success that the Mellon Foundation proceeded to fund this initiative for an additional 3 years. So one thing to keep in mind with programs like this, with initiatives like this, is that it's great when you do a one-off program, when you do a one-off event, when you do a project, a pilot project, because it initiates things. The real work starts after that. It's the deepened relationships, it's the deepened engagement. It's how will you keep up with those relationships to see how they translate over time. And so that additional funding helps support over the next 3 years, deepening the relationships in these Southside neighborhoods, as well as expanding into other areas. So other areas like the west and north sides of Chicago, to see how what we took from this initiative and how we could expand it into some other communities and some other areas. And I speak on this neighborhood initiative as well because I think it directly relates to the project that I've been doing with these two individuals for over 4 years now. And it has been the framework for how we've situated this project that Angel will speak on here in a moment, and kind of provides a bit of context for you all as to why I'm even here. But with that being said, I don't want to take up too much more of everyone's time. I'm going to hand it off to one of you to
Edward,
move on to this. But I do want to say, and here's some of the flyers for these programs that we took on. But I do want to thank you all for listening to my long spiel. But also, I hope you got something out of this because this work is important, and what Angel and Edward are trying to do here in Malta to engage communities, to engage underserved communities, I think is extremely important, and I think it translates globally. And so this cross-collaborative experience has been one that I hold near and dear to my heart, and I hope that we can continue to extend that for years to come. So thank you.
Thank you. I think, Edward, you should go on to why Science in the City wanted to do this project,
Sure.
And then I'll come in.
So, Edward Duca, University of Malta lecturer and the coordinator of Science in the City. What I'd like to start off with actually is if you guys can introduce yourselves, tell us your names, and tell us why you came to this chat, really,
Yes.
here.
That would
I'd
be good.
like to know that.
Hi, I'm Olivia. And why I came here was because I'm from Canada. I'm originally from Montreal. And I used to do theater, and I studied theater and development, which is like the slogan of that program is theater as a catalyst for social change. And then I did a master's program around social change, and now I don't really do anything around social change. And I'm feeling quite disconnected from my art and from social change. And then I saw this and I was like, well, that's great. Like ever since I had come back to Malta about 3 months ago, I was feeling quite disconnected. And so I kind of wanted to reintegrate myself and I'm like, oh, there's other things outside of my existence, and to see that.
Love that.
We're very
Angel
excited
needs-
to meet you.
Angel needs help.
Great. Yes,
She can't do everything on her own, to be
I'm
honest.
happy.
So hello, my name is Marcon. I'm Maltese. I'm actually a cultural manager with one of the 6 regions which are established here in Malta. I just also recently finished my master's about how technology can help to change culture. And I consider myself something similar to what you described, except I consider myself as a broker. So instead of connecting things, I am the relationship builder as well. So I think it's easier for me to say when I say I'm a broker. So I'm a creative broker, let's put it this way. I've been in this industry now for a good couple of years. I've worked in community projects in Valletta as well, when we were doing the Valletta 2018 European Capital of Culture. And because of my work on a regional level now, I was interested to also try and reconnect. Because of my master's, I was a bit, closed off from the rest of the world. So I wanted to sort of jump in and see if there are possible ways on how to connect more to the community, because the region I work with is also very different. There's urbanization, there's village life, there's sheltered life. It's actually the East region, which includes St. Julian, Slima, Birkirkara, but also, for example, Gargur, Liya, and the other villages, which are completely different. So next year we're going to be region of culture, so I need all the helps and tips I can get in order to be able to bring more community to cultural and arts events, which is something we did pre-COVID, but I understand now that the audience priorities are different. Like ticketing and things like that, they affect us. Anything changes in Malta, it affects also arts and culture on many different levels. Like, for example, next year there's going to be the local council and EP elections. So yay, 2 months off from arts and culture. So yes, we're facing some challenges, but it's also an exciting time because this Region of Culture initiative is quite new. There's a region at the moment which is working hard to strive and showcase, but also next year it will fall onto us to try and see how to make things better and showcase a region which has multi-diverse ethnicities, religions, languages, and everything. So this will be interesting. Yes, fun times ahead. But what you mentioned in your project and as well how to connect the Maltese, this will definitely help. So thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you, guys. You can keep the mic amongst yourselves.
So that's
And whenever you want to interrupt us, you get an
Yes,
idea, a
yes,
question,
yes.
let's make this a chat. I think this is the opportunity of a small audience. And so, Science in the City, I think around 2018, our surveys were showing us that, similar to what you said in Chicago, the community the festival was meant to be within wasn't actually coming. So the Valletta residents weren't really coming to the cultural event, the Science and Arts event, that is Science in the City. 30,000 people come, or some during that time it was between 20 something to and above. And that was a big disappointment for us because Valletta is a region where you don't get so many people coming to university. Don't get so many people who engage with university. So us coming to Valletta, it was important for the people of Valletta living here to come because they were one of the people who wanted to reach. So the Valletta and the Southern Harbour area is quite a focal point for university to engage with. In fact, it set up the Cotonera Resource Center. But apart from that, I think even as organizers, out of our desire to have impact, to leave a positive impact on the community, why aren't these people coming? And we had Angel as our artistic director, and we spoke about this, and she was tasked with coming up with some ideas on how to make this happen. At the same time, we had another person, Simone Kutayar, who is an ecologist but uses a lot of social science methods, and she did a lot of citizen science. So we encouraged her to apply those skills to Valletta, and she was meeting parishes and so on. Angel was also doing similar things. And then we asked them to combine forces because we realized there was a lot of overlap, which then led to Angel attending, what was it called? That picture you showed, it was from
Atelier.
the Atelier.
So one of the images on there was actually where Angela and I met here in Malta.
So Valletta Cultural Agency, one of the nice things out of Valletta 2018 was funding the Atelier, making that in Malta, which really helped Maltese people attend. And Angel created some great contacts. Grayson was one of them. We also met some people from, which we haven't managed to collaborate with, some people from Egypt and other parts of Africa. We haven't yet. And then we came up with this project, but that needed the... Angel, remind me, did Andrew come in at this stage or afterwards?
A bit after.
A bit afterwards. So we came up with this project, and then COVID hit. So we had raised 12,000 euros. So we split it up into 3 phases because of the cost. We didn't know how to fund it, basically. So we split it up into three phases to try and do that. Once we raised the money for the first phase, COVID hit, and that killed all community engagement. But then Angel got introduced to Andrew Camilleri, who's a sociologist now living in Chicago.
He's living in Chicago now.
Yeah, he's reading a PhD in Chicago. So they met in Chicago as well after I introduced them in Malta.
And I think what will help too with Edward is this initially started off as almost like a site-specific art project. So it was going to be something where we were going to engage communities via site-specific makerspace, type of setup. And we learned very quickly, one, the cost to fund something like that, to go through that process was difficult, not only on top of engaging with the community properly, right? We hit the pandemic, everyone closed their doors, and then Angela and I continued to communicate. This is when the neighborhood initiative kind of came up. We kind of simplified, and when I say simplified, I mean we kind of dialed back and focused really on how do we connect and engage with these communities. And that's kind of where Andrew came in, and Edward, just wanted to provide, because it was a series of things over these 4 years. It shifted a lot to where we've gotten to today.
So the initial idea was that artists in Chicago would work with communities in Chicago and link up to artists and communities in Malta. We identified the artists and we identified the communities. And that was the before COVID style. And the idea was that it would be a sharing of experiences, international collaboration, a lot of the usual standard community engagement stuff. But then once COVID hit and, we dialed to the basics, we met Andrew, and he introduced us, I think, to the Dominicani, the theater group.
I can take it from there
Yeah.
if you want.
Okay.
Yeah. So at this point, because we had a frame, we were thinking in the wrong way, like Grayson was mentioning. So we were with a set mind. We're going to do this, save the community, and blah blah blah. And the community does not need us. And what Andrew, when I met him through connections, because that's the beauty of it, taught us was you have to see the community as assets, what they can offer. It's not you go and save them. They don't need our saving. They're on their own surviving, but we need to change our frame of mind and see what they can offer, how we can collaborate on an equal level. And so that was really, really beautiful. He had done a lot of work for Valletta Design Cluster when it was reaching out to the community here in Valletta. And he introduced me, so he did a lot of legwork, a lot of legwork during 2018 and 2019 with Valletta 2018 and also with the Faculty of Wellbeing. Where he was working as a part-time lecturer.
Research support officer.
There you go. So he introduced us to two communities. And so we had someone who had already done that. And I went in around 2021, I think. 2021, I was introduced to two communities. One was the school, the headmistress. So you have the children of these people. So you go in through there. And the other one was a very hardworking community, which is the St. Dominic Theatre Group at the St. Dominic Church. Underneath, there's a very, very live happening thing. There's all these volunteers who, during the pandemic, reorganized this magnificent space under the Basilica and turned it into a working theatre space, which it had already been a working theatre space, but the backstage is magnificent. It's an actor's dream because there's enough space for the actors and enough space for makeup, boardroom.
Green room, everything.
Yes, everything that you can imagine. There are more national theaters that don't have this amount of space. And this was done by the community for the community. So it was precious. And we went and asked, what do you need? We had to let go of our preconceived silly ideas. What do you need? And one of the things the theater group wanted was a Wi-Fi, a working Wi-Fi. Training, especially acting in front of camera. The discipline of going, because these are volunteers and they do it part-time. So they meet at 8 p.m. after their whole work and meeting their families, and then they come and they do theater.
And I think it was me, you, and Andrew that went, right?
Yes.
And that was important. Like,
yes.
You really need to meet the community face to face.
Andrew was there physically.
Yeah.
So we changed the language. We talked their way, and this is important. You don't go. We didn't speak English, and we spoke colloquial Maltese, and that makes a big difference. We're equal. We're talking on the same level. We would like to work with you. How can we work together? We have this thing, and you have this thing. Yeah. They have a space which we don't have. They are working with the community, which we are not. So we're valuing. We're not talking down. We're valuing them, and that is a big shift in our mindset that needed to happen.
And as a festival, we wouldn't have ever come up with the idea that we should fund the Wi-Fi of a theater, of an underground theater in this case.
Yeah.
So
but this is what the community needed and wanted. I think they need it though. They do need it because it gives them another level. With the school, I really was happy. My background is I'm a teacher of art and music, so not theater. Those are my subjects. Go figure. But so that is I'm very comfortable in a classroom. So
You also studied science as well.
Oh yes. That's how I got to be with Science in the City, such a beautiful festival. Because for me, it was very alien to describe to someone that I work with science and art. But Science in the City is just
sense.
it makes a lot of sense there. And I use scientific methods to do art in summer. So we went to the headmistress, a beautiful person, open to ideas, really keen and eager, and we started working with them on 2020. So we went with a tiny budget held by Science in the City and Valletta Design Cluster here to do a pilot. And we start building a relationship with the teachers, because teachers are very important, because they are all the time there. They know the children, they know what works and what doesn't. And so again, we need to see them as assets. They are hands-on, doing the groundwork. We're the intruders. We have knowledge, we have a bit of money, and they have everything else. So we have to value each other like that. We did a pilot. I can start showing you. So these are the first community engagement, first workshops we did with the actors of the St. Dominic. So they wanted to do some improvisation. We were just testing out. So first we didn't do the project, we did a preliminary, a tiny version. So we did 3 workshops with the community and 3 workshops with the school. COVID times with the masks. We got an artist, James Demek. The children love folding papers. It's something that is already familiar. We took a lesson from maths. They had done pyramids. So we made pyramids out of paper. So it linked directly. So we are not intruding. We're embellishing a lesson that the teacher had done. So she had just done the maths. We were in collaboration. So she gave me the syllabus, and I said, "Can we pick this one?" So they did the maths lesson with the pyramids, and then they folded it. And from the pyramid, then they started making these beautiful flowers. James Demek is an architecture by profession, but he also does TV sets, gorgeous, designer dresses made of folded paper, origami. So he's been in Milan, everywhere. He's very good with children. And then the last scholastic year, we started the proper project. So we were testing out the year before, and we had all the masks and all the annoying bits of being during the pandemic. And then last year, that all vanished, thank goodness. And we asked the children, what do you want to talk about? So again, we are listening to them because we need to hear them. The project is about the children's voice. Vucijiet Beltin means voices of the people from Valletta. And no one better than the children. And
How old were the children in Valletta?
9-year-olds. So we had 2 classes, and the children wanted to talk. It was unbelievable. Noise pollution, sea pollution, air pollution, littering, lack of public space, and lack of trees, which I thought was it's exactly what I want to talk about. But anyway, this is what the children want. Those are the photos you're gonna see are the children's photos. They took these photos. We presented the whole, because they did an audit. We presented it in front of the Commissioner for Children and the Mayor of Valletta. I will not say what I think of the Mayor of Valletta.
Commissioner for Children was nice.
So the audit that the children did, they actually went to the streets with the help of Ecoscola. So Ecoscola is an NGO who works with all the children in Malta and Gozo to teach them about how to help the environment, how to take care of the environment. So the kids are learning a lot of stuff, and then the grown-ups make them forget. But anyway, so this exercise was discussed with the children. So they went out with folders and papers, and they interviewed residents, workers in Valletta, and tourists. So in English, it's dirt in streets, in the sea, lack of public space, lack of trees and flowers, and noise at night. Those are the things that bother them. They are super cute. Okay, so I really like them, and I mean, so this is actually their presentation. This presentation was in front of the commissioner and everyone else. So that's them, and this is what they saw. They saw cigarette butts. So another thing I wanted not to forget. You were mentioning in Chicago that youths do not walk out of blocks that they are usually. This is the same in Valletta. It's ridiculous, but it's true. So the children in Valletta live in this side of Valletta. So 4 streets, they have a pharmacy, supermarket, the sea, and they don't walk up to other piazzas. So they wanted, we took them out so that actually they see Valletta. You know how tiny Valletta is. These children living in Valletta don't see the Valletta with their parents, with their friends. They're always in the same 4 streets. So this exercise of taking them in different areas of Valletta is for them a new thing, their own place, which they don't know, which is unbelievable. Me living in Malta, I couldn't understand it, but we had to wrap ourselves around it. And so they took their, the government gives them a tablet. A tablet, thank you. So they have a tablet, and they took photos with the government's tablet. They carried it around, and they took these photos themselves. And they were very bothered by this stuff. Too much work happening, scaffoldings that they didn't like. Obviously, the cigarette butts in plants, they don't have enough plants, and when they are full of cigarette butts. Too many tables, they don't like that. Okay? They were really annoyed, so they put more. They're here, someone posing away. These are them taking notes from residents and tourists. Sellers, that's their teacher. They're talking to more. So this is what they noticed is the tree on the side, but then rubbish outside, and being packed away. A bollard in the middle of the pavement. But then the residents themselves, this was something that they liked. The residents were beautifying the street. They were they liked that they are taking initiative. This bothered them. Someone decided that the street is going to be their workshop. They didn't like that. The graffitis, and this one is a big pain in their heart. These skips are right outside their school. So in summer, it smells awful, just as they're going into school or outside, and their parents are waiting next to this. They were very upset about it. The unkept seashore, they love this is where they vacate, they swim. That's why they don't go, they have everything they need. They don't even go to the cinema, which is 4 streets up. They really don't like the noise that cruise liners make, the air pollution. This is stuff they like, there's trees and it looks pretty. They think there's too many cars. And this is the results of their audit, some of the results. They were asking whether there's enough space for them, or if it's clean enough, or if there's enough rubbish collection. Because this is the stuff that they learn about with Ecoscola, It's more recycling than upcycling, but anyway, it's better than throwing. And the noise, they are very bothered by the noise. This is their handiwork. The teacher made an assignment. This is something they asked for. They wanted a tour around Valletta to learn about the history of Valletta. So because they don't go around Valletta. And then we took them to this 5D Malta experience to learn about the history of Malta. And they were fascinated. They didn't know about the war, that so many buildings were filled, and this is the streets that they live in. They didn't know that, so they were fascinated. I'm very happy to see this. We were very lucky that Valletta Design Cluster were housing an artist in residence. She's American living in Turkey. There you go. See? everything links up. Nora Byrne, she works with communities in underserved areas as well. And the communities go in and do a mural of their wishes and what they like. And they beautify some area which is being forgotten, you know? And the kids showcase things they want, more cats, more fountains. I don't know. There's also some energy drink as well, because don't ask me exactly why. And there's a submarine, pharmacy as well. Churches. We have so many churches, but they wanted another church. Again, I don't know the reason why, but it was so cute. Yes, and the game console. Yes. So there you go. So, but there is also the tree. I was so happy. At least there's a tree. Because they had been saying trees so much, and then they didn't even draw one. Anyway, but they learned about how to do printing. That was done with printing and stencil making, which is very cute. Then we went in to consolidate. So this took all scholastic year. So that's from October to May, because then June they had their exams. So all of that in May, they did an outline of a play with all their ideas. And we did the presentation in front of the mayor and the commissioner and their parents. And I thought that was really special. This is an outline of the play that's going to happen on Friday. I'll go back a bit and come back. They also noticed something that annoyed them was the sea pollution by the fish farms. They were bothered by that. We took them to university. This is one lecturer. We took them to university. Another thing that you mentioned, because a lot wouldn't, and you mentioned it, a lot of people, kids from Valletta will never go to university. Now in Malta, we're so lucky. We don't need to pay. We get paid to go to the university. But still, children from this area usually do not go. So we took them to university. We had Professor Alain Deidoun, who first introduced university and told them that he comes from a working class, and he's now, because of how lucky we are to have such an education system, he manages to be a lecturer at university. So they can do it too. And I was telling them where the canteen is and what happens. And then he took them to his lab and showed them robots. And in the 10 minutes, he wanted to give them everything, but obviously you can't. But they also spoke about sea pollution. So that was really beautiful. The kids appreciated it a lot. Then we went to the Faculty of Built Environment, where we met Wendy Jo. She spoke about, so they did an exercise where they pick whatever they want. They were given an envelope, and they put the envelope, whatever strikes them. Most of them got little pebbles, little flowers, this and that, and so on. Because university it's urban, but there's a lot of trees, which they don't have. The planning of university is gorgeous, and that's one thing that they really were fascinated by. So she took them walking around university. I wanted that to happen because now they went to university. University is not for someone else. They have physically been to university. It's not the first, not when they're 17, they might, if they're lucky, be there. At age 9, someone took them there and spoke to them. We took them on the roof garden, and Antoine Gatt was explaining that up here, Valletta Design Cluster, there's also a roof garden, very gorgeous. The beauty because we have roofs, and we should invest in that. So they showed them. They also spoke about because in university we have a ring road, and the traffic is only one direction, and they cannot park inside. They can park in the ring road, and that's something they love. Something that they came up when we did the presentation in front of the mayor. One of the council members is proposing just that, to have the ring road in one direction. A tourist said, "Such a gorgeous city. Why do you have so many cars polluting it?" Anyway, so they were speaking to grown-ups, to the university lecturers, and they were being treated as equals. And you could see the beaming faces. It makes such a big difference. And I am hoping that they took something and it will mark them for life, this empowering. Wendy was amazing. She came to speak to them during the presentation as well, and thanking them for being such great kids and talking about green planning, you know. We also visited another time the commissioner, so we took them out and they went to Goudia again. So you have a village with a lot of trees, which they don't have. So they are seeing what is possible, so they can dream. The headmistress was gorgeous. I'm telling you, she was such a big heart, and she energized the teachers to find time for this and learn a lot, because syllabuses in school in Malta are jam-packed. They don't have a lot of time to do this, but she was supporting them to actually do this. And now we're ending this project. So we started talks with Grace in 2019. We tested it out 2021 because the pandemic really put brakes on our progress. 2021 we went in summer school and then scholastic year, and then last year we did the whole year with the children, and then we presented the actors at St. Dominic with an outline. We did workshops on script writing and acting, and they're presenting Kallu. Now Kallu means, it's got a lot of meanings, but it's an annoying person. Enough said. And it also means when something's really dirty. So they have a trash monster. The script was 2 children from the school transferred to St. Dominic to help with the outline. They didn't attend summer because they prefer to go to the beach. But at least in the first script writing sessions, they were there. So that's for me is a success point. We have, the main characters are a boy and a girl. Those are child actors. It wasn't by audition. I've seen them act. They're very good. And the girl and the trash monster are from the St. Dominic Theatre Group. So as you can see, there was a whole shift all the time, shifting and trying to make sure that everyone's needs and desires are met somehow, but always listening to their needs. So they had the feast, which we had to wait for. We stop everything because they have their St. Dominic feast and you cannot do anything. They rent out the space, so we don't rehearse. The Wi-Fi should be installed by now, like now, today, and hopefully tomorrow the engineer goes in to do the final testing. After the performance, which is around 35 minutes, we're going to do the audit with the audience. So the Wi-Fi has a purpose. It's going to be turned into forum theater. So the audience will be voting, and they will be seeing the results. The results that they saw of the audit that the kids did, we will be doing it there and then with the kids. So technology comes in to empower the audience. And forum theater helps, energize the audience. You're not just dumping a story. You're also giving them a voice and hearing them out, and we're discussing. And that's how I think democracy should be. We're always listening to each other, and theater is such a safe space to do that. We are doing it in this framework of art. So science comes in, yes, and then I skipped that. This one, I wanted to thank the BSc students. So the Faculty of IT came in, listened to our needs, and they designed the software that we're using. So we collaborated with 3 faculties. The science students were super excited, so happy to be involved. They're not here because they're students, it's the last bit of their holiday. But they supported me a lot in teaching me how to design this what do you call them, polling system. Yeah. So their needs were incorporated and made sense like this. And I believe in the space, in the space that theater offers as forum theater. That's
Do
it.
do you guys have some questions?
Yes, it was a lot of hard work,
Labor of
but
love.
yes, but I believe a lot in them. And this is one of the children's hands. Such cute hands. He's designing the stencil here. So they designed their drawings, they were turned into stencils. Nora and me spent about 6 hours cutting the stencils because they're too young to use a blade. So we did that here in the maker space. So I want to thank all of these. They made it happen, and obviously Edward's support for believing in it in the first place. And tomorrow, on Friday, this will open and we'll be celebrating. Thank goodness. Yes, but so much love, so many people that want to be together and energizing everyone. So it's,
So Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m.
yes, yes.
Saint Dominic. It's
Yes,
7 minutes walk.
Yes, it's just here. So it's in Maltese. We will be filming it. I'll be adding subtitles, and this will be online, right? You have the online version of the festival. So this for me is very important.
We're delaying the online festival till there's more consistent rain. Because when we did it in October last year, it was a nice day, everyone was out, and it killed our audience.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
of course.
So we're going to delay it till November. But
Yeah,
if you
that's
guys want a copy of it before, we should be getting it a few weeks
Yes.
afterwards from the.
We're
the-
doing subtitles because we didn't want to do it in English.
Yeah.
But
So-
then,
so
but then
do-
we need to reach.
Yeah, reach out to us. And,
Yeah.
So. But what did you guys think of this? And thank you for the nice
Method.
words.
I think my first impression is that this is not something that you can do overnight. It takes years and years. You need a lot of time to build relationships and to build that level of trust as well, especially with kids. Because
But there are ways of speeding it up. So we had a key player here, Andrew, who had done the legwork. So for your work, this is something that I really commend. Find people who are already planted, key players in your community, and start building your relationship from now with them.
Yeah. So he came from the Faculty for Social Wellbeing.
Yes, but
the
he had a
university.
relationship with the local council, with a member of the local council, with the school. See, he had been reaching out, but these are the people who stuck. Now I'm already in talks with another community in Valletta, but that's just me. Yeah, but this makes it speed up. If I had to do all that legwork, I wouldn't have managed in 6 years.
But I think once the part of the community sees you do something, other parts of the community start to get interested.
Definitely.
I think this is what is
definitely.
happening
Yes.
now.
So even in St. Dominic, so I spoke, this is one of the successes of this project. So I spoke to 3 men, the director, the secretary of there's the feast. So all the decorations have their own committee. So the secretary of that committee and some other, he also directs. But to do display, another person, a woman came up and she took it on board. And so the director now of the play is a woman. We don't have many theater directors, women. So, but she went all out for it. And so we empowered her to do her first play. So even within the community, once you build a relationship and everything, you have to be flexible and start seeing who will be doing the work. You know, all the time shifting.
it's difficult in the sense that there are 2 layers to working in this kind of line of work because there are politicians.
Yes,
So
yes, yes, yes.
you have those politicians that are genuinely interested in helping their community
Of
and
course.
empower and are the leaders. But then you have the other side, which is totally different.
Just for photos.
Yeah, so just
Yeah. No, no.
we know.
It's
So,
true. It's true.
and apart from that, then there's also these what we call like the community ambassadors. They are the people who stand out typically, and they are the ones who would be involved in all of the groups that are involved in the festa, religious things, and other things like that. The thing is that because we are so there's some communities that don't even have a festa, like Sweden, for example. They actually rely on voluntary groups to come up with something. And they came up with this music fest, which is amazing considering that they don't even have a festa, because we consider as Maltese like the center point of each community is usually the festa organizers. But we're evolving so much that there are some places which don't have these center points around the festa. So then there's people who actually come up from, you know, are the stars that are part of the council. They're usually councillors, they're not paid, they do everything voluntary out of their own time, and they end up, you know, forking out from their own pocket. But those are rare and few, and they're easy to spot, really. So
Yeah, but
thankfully,
if you support them, that would give them a boost to help you out. And these key players, since they're involved in so many, open doors for you, and you start seeing them shine. You know, it takes time. That's for sure. You cannot rush things. Another way of getting to communities is, I don't know if you remember, one of the later exercises of Valletta 2018, we did a breakfast on a bridge. So we did anthropological walk around Hamrun and Marsa, and then we located a bridge between these two underserved villages. So it's a walking bridge with the local council next to it. We had some support from the local council, so they gave us some tables, and then we invited different communities to bring their breakfast. So we had Syrian women with their children coming by bus with crockery and their breakfasts, and a lot of different communities. And anyone who's walking, we have a chat, invite them to eat, and that worked a lot. We did it also in, my goodness, Gzira, I think. It's floods a lot. Gzira, I think it's called.
Gzira.
No,
The
Imsida, thank you so much. Imsida.
In front of the church.
In front of the church. We did it the following year. Again, we found the mayor who was very enthusiastic, and she knew a lot of people. Exactly. So if you have a bit of money, it can be stretched a long way when you have key players, because they open doors for you. They want to introduce you to the people they know, because they go out of their way to do this out of their own pockets sometimes, let alone if they're supported a bit. That's how things are speeded up. These key players that will go out of their way and walk the extra mile. I wouldn't have succeeded otherwise.
Olivia, what did you think?
So really direct. I had a question actually. I was kind of confused as to where you laid with the project.
Okay, so he was
It's just
how he came in.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I had no idea how to start. So when we met, he was telling us about his work, and what continued striking me was this community engagement project. So I told Edward, listen, I think we need to work with this guy, at least to guide us, because at that point, we were floundering a bit. We weren't sure how we're going to reach the communities.
So essentially, I consulted on the project, and as we were kind of framing up how we were going to initiate this engagement with communities, and like as we've mentioned, it played many forms throughout the 4 years. What I basically did was just provided some background, some knowledge. So when we were starting to initiate this work in these communities, I'm like, well, this is how I've handled things. I think it's different contexts, different places, but this is how I've handled it, to provide that guidance, to provide that support along the way, and then just different initiatives that we could potentially queue up throughout the process, to guide the project as it kind of came together.
We were hitting a lot of blocks.
Yeah. I will give it to Angel. She really pushed this thing through. I would say she was the guiding force from start to finish, because for me, I'm in Chicago. I'm based in the U.S. To do this type of work, you have to be on the ground. You have to be face to face. You have to be having these conversations. And so all I could really do from a consultant perspective is just provide guidance on what I know and what I've done.
I needed it. I needed someone to empower me.
And
We also, as the festival, we needed someone who had done this before, so we knew that we were doing things in the right way, because it was very new to us. We had good intentions, but and we'd find various ways to bring grace into Malta. For example, and whenever he came, we always talked about funding strategies, how to structure the projects, how to change it, adapt it, how to solve problems and issues. And for example, once we brought him, we were running a course/conference called Psyculture, like transdisciplinary art, science, entrepreneurship, and education for societal change. And he came to speak about for that, and at the same time meets Angel, me, and so on, and we continue developing these ideas.
And one thing to note, I wasn't always in the wings. The last time I was here in Malta, I actually had the opportunity to meet those students that you saw in those photos.
Yeah, he met everyone.
Yeah, meet the headmistress, meet some of the community members, the individuals who run the theater at St. Dominic's. So I was able to actually engage with them, talk with them, provide a face to this American that's in the background.
Yeah, so if I'm talking to him about something or someone, he knows because he spoke to them. Mm-hmm. I don't want to forget Dr. Andrew Camilleri's involvement. One of the things that did not work as well was we didn't have enough funding to do the analytics, which would have
research
been...
aspect.
Yes. He was going to bring in his own funding, but then that didn't work out. So he gave us a kind of an outline how to work, how to do, because in the beginning it's very overwhelming. So I needed someone who can break it down into kind of a program for me.
He built a theory of change model.
Exactly.
So the idea is that you identified from the onset the change you would like to see. You identified the situation at the initial phase of the project, and by the end of the project, where do you want to see the behaviors, the communities, all these processes? Where do you want to end up? You map that. Your intentions and outcomes and so on. Obviously, that was based. The theory of change project was based on the 3 years or so beforehand and all the pilots that were done.
Exactly. That's how it takes time.
If you're planning your own community engagement project, you need that first year to be research. Yes. Otherwise, you can't build this model otherwise, unless someone else has done it before.
And with that being said, because I know this type of work does take a lot of time to really connect with communities, to do all of that, but there are ways throughout the process where you're still actively programming, you're still actively doing smaller events, smaller opportunities to connect, that if you have the proper funding, you have the proper support, again, also speeds up the process a little bit, because now you're really engaging in some of these opportunities to see how things work, if it translates, if it doesn't, if you have to pivot, if you have to make a shift. I think being able to do that consistently too, again, going back to how do you sustain, how do you continue that development, can I think eventually get you to where you are looking or where you want to be. Within our process, it took a lot longer because of the shifts, not only in how we handled the project, but in our funding models and who was involved when, the support we had, the time to really initiate these conversations with communities, to really engage with them. It just took a lot longer of a process. One that I would hope, if you have the necessary support, you can do a little bit quicker.
I had to apply for Arts Council funding. So this was 80% funded by Arts Council as an artistic project, 20% funded by Science in the City. So we had to be really creative on how to bring in the money which is needed. My biggest regret was that we didn't have enough funding to do this analysis of the before and after. We were lucky that we had enough to do the theory of change with Andrew. But if I can do an appeal for, it's so important to analyze statistically, scientifically, the effects of art.
Yeah.
So that's again, it's either because I think like that, arts and sciences need to be working together. The science gives you the numbers, but the arts communicates them well. But without each other, you don't improve enough, because the numbers need to be checked and see the effectiveness of your method all the time. So I think there needs to be an understanding with the funding bodies that this is an important aspect of doing a project. You need to analyze scientifically this, and it has to be done professionally, so that means you need to do it with money. It boils down to that. But then you can build on it. Then you have something concrete to show. The politicians who like posing with the photos, then they can brag about it at Parliament. I have these numbers and these are scientifically proven, and I can talk beautifully because I have the artists. And bringing those together benefits the community. I mean, those are the voters, so I think the investment should be like that.
Yeah.
That's the right way of doing it, democratically, fairly, for everyone. I'm not a politician, but I am.
She's running next year.
I'm not running, no. But yeah, I think this is how it should be done.
Cool. Any other questions, guys?
So the project's ended now.
The project is culminating in on Friday and Saturday. Then we'll have the online. An aspect of the play is going to be featured in another children's festival. We've been approached through Nora. So the context of Malta contacted Nora, an American living in Turkey, and she told me, and then we built, so we're going to adapt some of the set work that she designed, reflecting the children's artwork. So the set has been designed by Nora, reflecting how the children draw. And then that is going to be exhibited at Vucijiet, which is a very big children's festival in November. And part of the play is going to feature there, and there'll be workshops. So that's another aspect. We'll see. I would have liked to present all of this work to the Festival Academy as well, so that we can do knowledge sharing and learn from each other, discuss how best to go about the next step.
And the Festival Academy is an initiative created by the European Festivals Association. So they do ateliers, they do different workshops and meetups across Europe and globally, because they're actually coming to the US, I think, in 2024. But they bring together festival managers, directors, production managers across festivals to engage with one another globally on ideas, on issues, to talk through concepts, things of that nature. It's a thought sharing program. And so the hope is, because we were both alumni and have done additional work with them, that we could present this project at some point in time.
To them. So we'll see. But no, it's not the end. Because I feel guilty on leaving the community like that. No.
We did host a seminar here from a possible funding body, and we might go down that avenue. Just I don't want to like burn out on jail just yet.
Yeah,
So
I need help. So if you want,
let her relax.
yeah, I need help because it's hard to be on
hard.
my own. I'm an artist. I'm a theater maker. So and I am always doing. And there's not enough of me to be doing.
So we do want to continue it, and we do identify possible funding sources to do that. But yeah,
Stay tuned.
yeah, stay tuned.
The hope is to continue this and to be able to make this more sustainable.
Communities need it. I cannot. It makes me feel guilty to think that I would let them go and that's it. I did my job. This is that's one thing that I've learned. You can't leave them like
Yeah,
that.
but the one thing to keep in mind too is a seed has been planted, you know, so that
But you
idea
need
of
to
opportunity.
take care of it.
Oh, of course, but that idea of opportunity and that it's potentially attainable, that's all you need sometimes. And it's, of course, you want to help it grow, but I think that seed is extremely important.
Yeah.
So thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate you listening to our
Rant.
rant.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.